This week's challenge is against an all-star Victorian futsal team.
Seeing opposition, I thought would have a good chance because they all look like geeks.
We all know that. Okay.
The moment we've been waiting for, the biggest moment in Futsal history. A huge round of applause for
Now here's Mike looking ahead to tonight's weather.
An ideal weather for the great indoors.
Some of the kids who are very excited to see a superstar like yourself.
Throwbacks all the way from Russia.
Hello, I'm Peter Hitchener with breaking news, and it's good news too. The Montrose Futsal Club has made it to the VEPL1. Congratulations to Matthew and the team. Hope you continue to play like legends, which you are.
Check Sam Mack is doing some futsal this morning.
And beautiful effort, guys. Congratulations on 10 years. Celebration, well done. 10 years, thank you for having us this morning. In a moment, we're going to move this out of the way. We're going to have a kick.
I'll be back, and I am back.
Welcome to Impactology Live. The theme for this next chat is one word: positivity. And both Rita and I have been looking forward to this chat because it captures everything that's been challenging during this time, but everything that is positive about the world we live in at the moment. We are absolutely pleased to have Peter Parthimos, CEO and founder of Futsal Oz, in the studio. An Impactology Live first in the studio.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Now, Peter, before we start our chat, just some background and a backstory as well. Peter's made some tough decisions in recent times about the future of Futsal Oz. And as a result of that, what we've actually seen is it's unleashed this support from the community. And it's a community that has a connection with not a brand, not a centre, not with the futsal ball, but with the people that work within the brand. The connection with Peter, connection with all the employees, but also connection with the players that they play with as well. So the success of Futsal Oz comes down to a number of factors. It's a positive culture, community connection, the awesome staff, and Peter's entrepreneurial spirit, but also his drive as well after a number of years starting the business. And I've been fortunate to see that passion over a number of years, and I've been fortunate to see the business grow and thrive as well. And we feel now is a really good time to tap into what has made Futsal Oz so unique, and get under the skin of Peter Parthimos and find out the story, the real story. So, Peter, welcome again. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You both are doing a great job. I've been following it over the last, 3 days now?
Yeah.
Amazing. It's fantastic. The response has been fantastic. And look, I'm looking forward to sharing and warts and all. Whatever you need, we'll put out on the table. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, let's start from the beginning.
Yep.
Growing up in Brunswick,
Wow.
like me.
Yep.
Growing up in Brunswick, what are some of your early experiences and what shaped you growing up in terms of growing up in Brunswick?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Growing up in Brunswick, when you look at Brunswick now, and when you talk about the Brunswick of old, it's very different. And we not only I would say Brunswick was a working class suburb, and you had your you either had to be funny or you had to be really strong to get through Brunswick, and it was a completely different setup to now. What I think brought the best out of people that grew up in Brunswick was the ability to get up in the morning, disappear for the whole day, and then come back at night. And during that whole time, your parents had no idea what you were getting up to. You'd come back with bruises, scratches. You'd be chased by dogs. It was just madness. You'd walk down the street and you'd hear noise, and you'd look up and there were people picking plums, from plum trees. And once they had finished eating them, there'd be plum fights. You'd be throwing. It was just whatever you were happy to do. What did we have back then? We had about 4 TV stations that were programming us non-stop, and those 4 TV stations were boring. So what did we do? We'd get out on our bike, we'd cause trouble throughout the street. So I think that was a really good time, because what you found was that you had to find your own way. There was no time to have that victim mentality, and what you found was that you'd have to create some thick skin. And I think that served us well going through, past primary school into high school. And, high school is another matter altogether. I remember coming to Brunswick High School in year 7, I had a maths class. And I'd rock up to the maths class and it was year 7s and year 10s altogether. And mate, there were tables getting flipped, paperwork getting thrown out the window, and the poor teacher had no chance of controlling it. And you'd only see these things on American TV, like the Wanderers and all that. You thought, what school am I at? So you really quickly had to adapt. You really quickly had to find a way of not only fitting in, but also standing up for yourself. Because we talk about bullying, that there was another level of bullying at that time. So they had to be really funny and accepted, or you had to be a bit strong. You had to stand up for yourself. And we all tried to do that. We were successful in some areas and unsuccessful in others. But I think that was the catalyst of the thick skin, and I think that served me well, because I always went back to draw from that.
I bet you they wish they had remote learning then. Flipped classrooms, paper everywhere.
Oh, it was a different, Brunswick High School, I'm sure that whoever's watching this, they went to Brunswick High School. That improved as we got older. That was my first year. So we had, year 7s and year 10s all in one class trying to learn maths. And everyone, there were sections. You had the year 7 and 8 section and the year 9 and 10 section. And we had some characters then, and whoever's watching that knows all these characters, they know. George, you know them very well.
Yeah, I think we were in the same class, and that was on a good day, the table flipping as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So Peter, obviously migrant parents.
Yep.
Aside from your parents and family, who were your heroes growing up? Who did you look up to?
I had older cousins. I was the youngest cousin. I had a lot of cousins that were at least 3 to 5 years older than me. So they were like my, early heroes. That I looked up to them. They were role models. The trouble they used to create, I wanted to emulate that. I always liked a bit of cheekiness. I liked the character in a person, and I was always drawn to characters that perhaps didn't toe the line as well as others. So, lots of my cousins, the same surname as mine. They're still on Facebook now. I really looked up to them, and not only cousins. I had TV stars like the Fonz. I used to watch Happy Days and think the Fonz was the coolest thing in the world, and I wanted to be the Fonz. I used to even try to hang out in, when we were young, we thought, because the Fonz used to hang out in toilets, have meetings. So all of a sudden at Brunswick High School, we'd be in toilets having meetings. So, and that's the part of the programming. We saw that and we thought that was cool. So, when you look at other actors like Clint Eastwood, the days of Clint Eastwood, when Clint Eastwood film will come on, he was another level. And then when you look at, more creative TV shows or TV movies like, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I really liked the character of Gene Wilder. I thought that was, I could watch that now. I think I've watched it over 50 times.
Yeah.
So they were the people I was drawn to, characters that were not the normal, that had a bit of an edge to them. So maybe that's explains some of the things I've done, as I got older. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to come back to the Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder character in a moment. But before that, let's fast forward to 2006. 3 young children, you've got a role in logistics.
Yep.
And you decide to kick the plug out of the wall and say, enough of that.
Yeah.
And Futsal Oz was born. Talk to us about that experience and what that meant for you at the time.
Yeah, at the time, I was working, I got into warehousing or store work, and I felt like I could do more, so I wanted to learn about, how logistics actually works. And I had a job at the Crown Casino. I was there for about 7 years, and that was really good. It was entertaining. It was a brand new facility. Everything was new. It was almost lawlessness in the back of the storerooms, and it was fantastic fun. It was right up my avenue. So, I became a supervisor and a manager to some degree, and then, I got a little bit bored of that, and I needed a new challenge. So I went to IKEA and we set up Richmond, and I was in the warehousing there, and I got a little touch board there, and I was always reaching for something good. As soon as I got to something, I felt like it was a void that couldn't be filled, and I couldn't work it out at the time. I thought, I'm enjoying logistics, I'm enjoying the team, I'm enjoying inspiring, younger people coming through. Although I made many, many mistakes during that period, it was horrendous mistakes in managing people, in different styles, like, micromanaging people, or, managing people with, an iron fist, and you learn all that. So eventually I got to a point where I thought, is this it? Like, I can try and get promoted, I can get a better position. But there was always this void, because I had this streak of, inside me that believed I could create something that didn't exactly exist. So I started playing futsal. I was playing outdoor soccer, and I loved playing outdoor soccer. I actually thought I was going to play for Liverpool when I was about 12 years old. That fire in the belly was still there. And, eventually, you obviously you realise at about 18, 19 that you're not going to play for Liverpool, so you go find a job, and you got your parents, telling you, go find a job, what are you doing? Forget about this is nonsense, and this is not the way the world works, and it's complete programming, and part of it is about getting unprogrammed. So for me, I'll get back to what happened in 2006, but I was just going to give you the background. In about 2005, I realised that there was a sport that was called futsal that I went and played, and a friend of mine, Evan Rabotis, was playing and refereeing at Albert Park, the pits, which still exists. And I'd come from a knee injury playing outdoor, and I hadn't played for a year. And he said, why don't you come down and we need a player? And I said, where? He goes, like the pits, futsal. I go, futsal, that ball, because they had this real hard ball when I was growing up, and I absolutely didn't like it. And he goes, no, the ball's great, come down, we need a player in there. I said, I'll come down, but come back from injury, I'll go goalkeeper. So I rock up to the pits, I go into this facility. I thought, well, it's just a parquetry floor, low roof. And we start playing, so I'm goalkeeping. All of a sudden, I'm finding myself getting really into the game. George, well how we get into the games. And I just thought, this is a fantastic concept. Like, the ball had improved, it was fun, it was, people were, gathering and communicating and sharing, fun stories, because you could see that all happening around you. And before I knew it, I thought to myself, mate, I want to continue playing. So I then, continued playing, I refereed, and I was part of a sport. I started introducing myself to this sport and found that, hang on, this sport really has got legs. This sport, this should be a bigger sport, because I knew overseas that there was World Cups, I knew there was European Cups, and I knew that Australia was doing something, but not a great deal. So in 2006, after going to a lot of different areas like the Federation and trying to talk people into doing something on a voluntary basis, I realised no one's going to do anything. So that was that, that moment where you burn the boats and burn the bridges and you get stuck on that island and you can't return. So that was the decision made, and I left my job and I pursued a career in futsal.
And there was no plan B.
There was no plan B at all.
Yeah,
and honestly, I left my job. My parents didn't even know I left, and we had this stadium, and this story's huge, so I won't go on about it. But our old high school, Brunswick High, where people were flipping tables, we had a gymnasium, right? And this gymnasium was going to get knocked down and become something that the Department of Human Services wanted to use. Some arty-farty building, whatever. But I'm flicking through the Brunswick Sentinel, which we had news. Do they still get distributed, these papers around the houses? Yeah, so once a week or once a month, you get this Brunswick Sentinel, it's a paper. Flicking through and I see my old high school teacher, Tony Rogers, in front of the gym saying, "Save the gym." And this was the time when I started getting into futsal. And I thought, save the gym. We can save the gym. We can come up with this futsal idea. So I contacted everyone and tried to convince them that we had, 1,000 people behind us and futsal was going to be the next big thing. And people would think, what is futsal? Like, you had to almost write a thesis of what futsal was. No one even knew what the word was. And, with the power of positivity and the energy that we created, we were given an opportunity at the gym. And the rest is history after that. That's how it pretty much started in 2006.
Yeah. Well, Peter, we've had a number of entrepreneurs in the last few days, and the theme that's coming out with them is that moving from where they were into a new venture, they needed to shed the skin.
Yep.
They needed to become something that they weren't before.
Yep.
So for you, what was it that you knew that you needed to do or found out as you were going along that made you such a strong leader and had that vision, I guess, of the brand beyond anyone else's sort of line of sight?
I think because I worked in logistics, I had seen companies like Grand Casino, because I started at the old casino. I saw a building going from absolutely level land into this monster of a beast of a building, and that I worked in the logistics area that we had to come up with most of the procedures and the rules. So I saw that it's it's a do-it-yourself project pretty much. That there was no one that comes down, because you've got this misconception that everything's just come and delivered and these are the rules, these are procedures, this is how it's done and just follow them. And of course in established businesses that's what it's like, but someone's established that. So I was very lucky to see that from the ground up at the casino, and also saw that at IKEA in Richmond when we set up Richmond. So I saw that, people, although on the world stage, make it look all trim and proper and everything gets done properly in front of the cameras and the lights. Behind the scenes, everyone's running with their heads chopped off, and no one even knows what they're doing, and half the time everyone's just blaming everyone. So I had seen that. So I thought, look, if no disrespect to some of these creatures that I worked with, if they can do it, I thought, mate, might as well not die wondering. If I go down, I'll go down in the blaze of glory. Yeah. So I thought that's the only way I saw it, and I just tried to remain positive throughout, all the challenging moments. And man, did I make mistakes? Made more mistakes than good decisions. And that's that's become cliche now. But honestly, the amount of mistakes you make, it's incredible. But if you sit there and ponder on your mistakes, then you can't see, the diamond in the rough. You can't see that good decision you made. So you've got to, whatever you think about, you end up bringing about. So the more you you consistently think about your errors, you're going to bring more and more errors. Yeah. So that was, that's how I did that.
Yeah. Peter, one thing, and I'm not sure if anyone that knows Peter and knows him well, it's his focus around professional personal development. So you are a really big listener of books.
Now.
So how did that shape you into the leader that you needed to be to grow the business? It's one thing to say, I need to change as an individual.
Yeah.
How did you work out along the way, mistakes and lessons along the way? Talk to us about your philosophy and how you went about that.
Well, the first thing you realise is that you know nothing. That's the first thing you realise, and you pretend you know everything. So the thing is, like I mentioned before, the world is a stage full of actors. You just got to decide whether you're going to be a good actor or a bad actor. And the thing is, you've got to align whatever actor you become, it's got to be your true self. So there's no use acting like someone you're not, because you get undone. So what I tried to do was, you know, we're lucky enough that we had, you know, Google at the time or whatever, you know, the internet had come on board and YouTube started, you know, becoming a lot more popular. So I realised there was no one you could just get onto the phone, you know, and you couldn't get on the phone and say, Anthony Robbins, mate, look, I've got this problem, how can you help me? There's none of that. And there were people that I had, that I really respected throughout the industries that I worked in, that I did lean on, but then you become a pest. You know, I mean, people don't love, you know, mentoring other people, but at that stage, my mind's thinking I'm a pest. So you've got to find whatever you can.
Has that changed though? Do you think that mentality though is right?
That that I think I'm a pest by hassling someone?
Anybody being a pest?
No, I actually think it's the opposite. I think that people like mentoring other people, but the person getting mentored has this perception I'm probably bugging that person. Yes. Or there's the other flip where the person is ruthless and just keep on asking questions, doing the mentor's head in. So there's a balance in between. Yeah. I actually enjoy when people want to learn, because I find that, you know, also giving back. So, and yeah, so for me at the time, it was like, where do I get this information? Where do I get this knowledge? Where do I overcome these adversities? And what happened was, Google started getting really intelligent. You know, you'd be able to punch in, oh, I want to know this, and you'd get a million things coming up, and then you'd decipher for it. You'd work out what character you are. You know, you were, you know, this type of character. So you'd find a solution to a problem. Now, how do you deliver that solution? So I leaned very heavily on self-education through the internet and through YouTube. I know it sounds crazy. Thing is, when you go from working as a manager into a business owner, there's a level of duties. There's a massive gap. There's a level of duties that you never see coming, because you're the end product. You're basically, that's it. The buck stops with you. You've got to pay those bills. You've got to make sure you make that final decision. You've got to make sure you recruit the right people. You've got to make sure that also too you're anticipating storms coming. So, you know, YouTube or Google can't actually tell you that. But what you can do is punch in and get other people's experiences of how they've handled them. So that's where all the mistakes come from, because you believe that it's going to work out one way and it works out another way. But you need to be able to have many, many different options, or have different plans that you can draw from. Like in any one time, I might have 6 or 7 plans for a solution that's very simple. Because now I've learned that things aren't as simple as they are. Things don't work out the way you want. And just our team that work here, that they will know that, you know, we've been in situations where we've done all the work, we've produced, you know, a great quality production, and all of a sudden we're going to go live, and all of a sudden someone has a car accident down the road, knocks out the pole, we've got no internet.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so you've had situations. So you know, anyone in their sane mind would just go crazy and start crying. But what you need to do, and after you have a load of experience, say, all right, okay, let's start problem solving. What can you do? So, you know, you've got mobile, you know, you've got mobile internet, and you need to know how do you get that mobile internet to be strong enough to do it. Anyway, that's just one example. So I think by having that positive and mindset of that, if there is a way, I'll find it. You know, when there's a will, there's a way. I think that's the starting point of your achievements.
And it sounds like your development as a leader, it's been the building blocks from day one, and every year, every experience, you've just been building on it.
Oh yeah.
If you look at where you are now, how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, definitely not a micromanager. I don't think there's any long-term benefits of micromanaging anyone. I also think I like to think I'm fair and firm, a leader, you know, and very flexible. But you have to be firm too. You've got to be firm and make decisions that are great for the brand, as opposed to just emotional decisions. In my early days, I made a lot of emotional decisions, you know, and I think as a leader now, you've got to be able to find that balance between your emotional triggers, what's pulling on your heartstrings, as opposed to, you know, in a year's time, how's this going to look financially? Am I going to be broke, or am I going to be, you know, in a situation that I'll be regretting? And in the early days, I made most of my decisions on purely emotional thoughts, and you know, I'm feeling bad about something, or feeling sorry for someone, or doing that. And not to say that I don't have that empathy now, it's just that there's a way of combining both now. And I just didn't know how to connect that in the early days.
Peter, I loved what you were sharing with us about failure, and through the series of the almost now 3 days, that's come up a lot for the entrepreneurs that have been on, those that have had their own businesses, even those that have pursued different themes. What's come through thick and fast is that the best way to learn is actually by stuffing things up, because that's what we remember. And so I loved that you shared that with us in that authenticity, so I thank you for that. 2020 has been an incredible year for lots of different reasons, and mostly not so positive. You've obviously got the business. How are things going for you and for Futsal Oz during this year?
Yeah, look, it's been a very challenging year. I anticipated some sort of a financial downturn, but definitely didn't see a virus coming in and basically stopping us from trading. Very challenging, especially because there's complete uncertainty now. And I mentioned before, I don't like being micromanaged, and I don't like micromanaging, but I also like to have some control of the situation. And these are two forces that have come to me, that I have zero control of the situation, and now I'm being micromanaged through a power above us. So these are the two things that I had to really take in and say, okay, there is a sense of micromanagement. A lot of it is a perception anyway. And then all of a sudden you haven't got any control of this situation. Where to from here? And these are the information. And Nikola Tesla said it well. If you want to, Nikola Tesla said something like, if you want a great success, you need to be on your own to think about it. And I didn't paraphrase it the proper way, but you need that time of reflection. You need that time of continual thought. So whatever you think about, and I mentioned before, you bring about. So you could take it two ways. I could have sat there and said, oh man, we destroyed this now, oh, I'm a victim, this and that. How can this happen? Time to capitulate, I've got a great excuse now. And that to me didn't fit the bill. So the way I've been seeing it is that, okay, this situation's come now. This is where we're at. What are the things that, if I could start with a clean canvas, what would I do? And what direction would this company head? And what are the offsprings of our company, because we've got other little brands, how can they benefit what we're doing? So the whole process, and it's a roller coaster. It's a massive Luna Park roller coaster, because 1 month you're on this train of thought, and then all of a sudden news comes in, or not even news, just situations change, and all of a sudden all those thoughts now need to be reevaluated and reconstructed in the new way of thinking. And that's the way of evolution. And so we're always consistently evolving, and it probably takes half your life before you realise life is a do-it-yourself project. So I think that what it's done for us at Futsal Oz now, although it has been painful, we've lost some key staff now. It's not the it's not the desired results we wanted. We now have to look at it. Okay, so this has happened. How now do we then look at it? What was overhanging? What wasn't working quite right for us? How can now we go back to our baseline, or back to the drawing board, and restart bigger and better and stronger? It's still evolving, but part of it is being completely positive, having faith, taking that weight off you and onto whether it's the universe or whether you spiritually believe in God, and just have trust and faith. And when you're able to have that clean energy and to be able to go deep, the answers come. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's there, it's true. So remain very positive about the future.
It's great to hear that it's, from the sounds of it, you're evolving that business model. You're thinking about what are the opportunities that are there. What are the plans, come 2021, which is just around the corner for Futsal Oz and also Series Futsal?
Well, the plan is obviously, like I said before, to some degree we're getting micromanaged, and also we have very little control of the situation. Right now we are getting close to opening, so we've been able to keep the original, Brunswick Futsal Stadium. Futsal Oz first started, well, it didn't first start there, but it was the first purpose-built futsal stadium, because we started around the corner at Court 3. So we've gone back to the base. That is really what the intention of the franchise was going to be, a 2-court stadium. The franchise was going to be modelled right after Brunswick. So now we've obviously, I can't comment about too much about the Thomastown State of Mount Emily because it's going through some legal challenges now, so it's best I don't mention it. But you know, we're prepared if the deal's not right to cut them off and say, okay, you know, it's sad that we do lose a community or two communities, two different communities, by the way, with similar passions. And that's what hurts the most. And before, when I was talking about making emotional decisions, the old Peter would have made these decisions based on the emotional effect of what the outcome would have been. But and that's where I used to get into a lot of trouble financially. And you know, people have this perception that we make millions of dollars and I've got 20 houses and this and that, but that's not the case. Any entrepreneur in Australia, especially in Melbourne, is paying through their teeth. That's why my gap's gone wider in my teeth, because the money just comes flying out. It's a massive misconception. People think that because you are some sort of an entrepreneur and you've got businesses that you're raking the money in. Now, to create a brand from the ground up, you are fueling this fire. It's just a fire. It just needs fresh wood all the time. And it's got to the point now where how much more wood can you put in? You're going to run out of wood and the fire's going to go out. So now, do I make decisions and allow the fire to go out in 2 years' time from now or a year and a half from now? Or do I basically stockpile some wood, keep the fire just enough, and basically get to that point where we can, you know, reignite it? So that was the decision. I mentioned from the start we will not die as Futsal Oz, but the changes are necessary now, or as hard as they are and how saddening they are necessary to, you know, go forward. And I suppose, yeah, there's a list of other business that we've got around Futsal Oz that I think will probably thrive more than Futsal Oz in the short term.
I'm glad you raised that point about being an entrepreneur and the hardship that entrepreneurs go through, because I think it's easy for others to look at the journey that entrepreneurs go through and go, wow, you know, courage, and it must be very glamorous starting up your own business and doing your own thing. But the reality is it's damn hard. And you're sinking in, you know, 18, 20 hours a day. Even when you're meant to be sleeping, you're thinking about it. It's something that you can't switch off. But what comes through really strongly from your story is the passion. And I think, you know, yes, you've got to have the wood, as you say, the fresh wood on the fire, but part of that is your passion and energy that you bring to it. And that comes through in bucket loads. So I say, you know, obviously, I don't need to tell you this, but don't lose it, because whatever you channel that into, it's going to be fantastic. Peter, I want to ask you, through 2020, through hardship, you know, as you've said, we often learn through that time, and it's through failure and adversity that we learn. What's the thing that you've learnt about yourself this year that comes through?
Oh, one thing I actually thought I was strong spiritually, or you know, understood how you know, the energy and the vibration of the universe worked, and through Nikola Tesla, obviously listening and reading as much as I can with Nikola Tesla, he mentions a lot about, you know, vibration, energy, and frequency. And now for me, that was something I thought I might have known a bit, but during this period, I've actually had a bit of a spiritual awakening for myself. So I've got to be deeper and try to work out what is it all about. And once you understand that, you know, it's a massive perception, once you understand that, you know, the move is always yours. The next move is always yours. It's no one else's, it's your move. So you're playing chess against yourself most of the time. Checkers, chess, whatever, tennis, whatever game you want. The other opponent is you. And, you know, even before I came here, I thought to myself, I'll get some notes, write down some notes. And then there was a part of me that said, you don't need notes, you know what you're saying. So I'm having this little conversation with myself. And that's who is your opponent all the time. Now, if you can understand and you can go deep and you create that energy inside you, you can then realise that voice that's talking to you is trying to just keep you safe. It's not always right, but sometimes it's completely right. You just got to realise that when you listen to yourself, your true self, you then can make some good decisions. Now, are you going to make mistakes? 100%. Now, you wouldn't be able to walk right now if you never made mistakes as a little baby. You started walking because you fell, you smashed yourself 100 times, but you never gave up. So that's the whole point. I think the 2020, what I've realised is that there's a lot more to being busy in business. It's all about, you know, getting in touch with yourself, with your family, your loved ones. You know, you drive past parks now, and parks are alive now. So, although this might be a micromanagement on the on society, there's this resilience, whether it's obvious or not. There's this resilience within us. So people have worked out a way. Go to the parks, meet your friends, have a glass of wine, or you know, whatever you know tickles your fancy, all of a sudden, we found another way of living. And I think that's what 2020 has taught me personally. I've gotten closer to my family, my immediate family, and also to myself. So I think, that's been a massive bonus. And I think the world slowly is, well, not everyone, but there's a vast majority of people now that are starting to awaken to, man, what is this all about? What are we all about? Are we about just, waking up, clocking on, clocking off, doing that again? So, I think it's been a very interesting year, 2020. I think 2021 is going to be even more interesting.
Peter, what are some of the daily, or do you have daily practices that you use, or weekly, monthly, whatever? But you talked about this year getting more in touch with yourself, going a little bit deeper.
Yep.
What are some ways that you could share with the audience that you've done that?
Well, the first thing I do is when I wake up in the morning, the most important thing I do is I get my state of mind right. So you could have a dream, you could have whatever the night before, or, your partner can scratch you with the toenail and rip your calf off, you can smash a toe on the side of the bed. The thing is, you've got to get yourself prepared. And a big part of me doing that is that I basically wake up and I ask myself a couple of simple questions. And the most important question I ask myself is, who do I love? Who do I appreciate? And I run through a list of people that I love and appreciate. And what can I do today to make it great? Now, of course, your mind is powerful and it goes to another area and you bring it back. So by going through it, I'm doing that while I'm going to the toilet, whatever, brushing my teeth and stuff like that. So I try to get myself in a peak state of mind. A lot of times I won't even put my legs out of bed until I start asking myself that question. Now, before I never did that. So I'd wake up, I'd be grumpy, I'd be whatever the case. I was creating that type of how can I say it? I was creating what's the word, George? I was creating that environment in the morning. And I was finding that I had the power, but I never knew how to use it. So after a lot of educating and reading and self evaluating, I worked out there is actually a formula you can actually use. I also got into something in the early days, which I think is very important to talk about, is that I got to a point where I was agitated a lot, or I felt like there were things I couldn't articulate that were wrong. Like I felt throughout the day or at night that something's bothering me, and I didn't know. And a lot of it I used to either eat, I smoked cigarettes back then. I don't smoke now for many, many years. And I'd find an escape, and I thought, this can't be right. So I actually found a way of de-stressing myself through a thing called tapping. I know it sounds crazy, but I actually tap. So if I can't explain what I feel some sort of sensation, some sort of agitation or some sort of anxiety. And men always say, no, I'm not stressed, I'm not easy. And it's true. The thing is, men, I think myself in particular, I can't explain. If you ask me what's wrong, I can't tell you. I don't know what's wrong. So I will tap, and until that goes. And what I find is that I bring myself back to a peaceful state of mind. My thinking is completely clear. And it takes me 30 seconds. And once I discovered that was a game changer for me. And I think George, when I discovered that, there was not many things that could bother me. Even with all this what happened, of course, I felt, this pressure of what's the decision going to be, what's the next move. But I was able to align myself by this method. So that's part of my routine. I do that every day, pretty much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But that's the research again that you did to I feel like you've been experimenting on your own body and mind for the last 16 odd years.
100%.
Yeah, so you're finding things are actually working for you.
Yep.
That probably didn't work 3 years ago, but you refined it and now it's working for you.
Yes, definitely.
So Peter, one final question, then we've got a couple of standard questions that we ask all speakers.
Pressure's on.
Absolute pressure. What message do you have for any parent, frother or kid that's been playing at Futsal Oz, whether it be Thomastown, Mount Evelyn or Brunswick? What message do you have to parents, kids and frothers?
What message I have to them from a brand perspective or?
From the heart.
From the heart. Personally, I would say that first thing, thank you for supporting us. I think it's been an incredible journey over the 15 years. Of course, Mount Evelyn and Thomastown haven't been 15 years old, but the communities have been, 99% of them have been very appreciative. We've appreciated their efforts. They've created friends, and some people have gotten married, and they've had kids through their connection through Futsal Oz. So for me, I would like to say a massive thank you first, because really, realistically, we don't just do this just for the round ball and the goals. It's what comes along with it. The culture, that ability to come in after work or a hard day and see like-minded people smiling, carrying on, and connecting. So the first thing I'd like to say is a big thank you. But I also want to say that it's not over, with Futsal Oz. We've taken a step back, and it's still got a little bit of way to go. And I can't say too much because there are things that can't be said right now because of the action that we're taking. But there is no way it's over. We are going to evolve and come back bigger and better. So that's really all I can say. And keep the faith. And I think good times will come. Bad times don't last too long. Hopefully.
No, they won't. They surely will not. And actually, I won't say what I was going to say because that'll ruin the word association game.
Okay.
So, Peter, as George said, we've got some standard questions. So the first one is, if you were having a video call with your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give to 18-year-old Peter?
Don't start smoking cigarettes. Yeah. No, what I would say is, take the risks. Don't kick yourself for making mistakes. Mistakes are normal, and pretty much just as long as really the truth. I think that if I was able to say to my 18 myself, no matter what anyone thinks of you or says about you or perhaps alludes to, don't care. Don't worry about it, because at the end of the day, you carry that around with you, not them. It becomes your problem, and it's none of your business what other people think of you. And I think that was something that I learnt probably maybe 10 years ago. And I think once you're able to learn that, the quicker you learn that, as long as you have your morals, you have your own ethics and morals in place, that you don't overstep, and we know that the morals and the principles that a good human being has, as long as you've got them in place, and no matter what anyone says about you or spooks about you, don't give a shit about it.
I love that, and I love that saying of whatever anyone else has to say or think about you, basically it's their business, not yours. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now a game of word association. So I'm going to say a word, and then you just say the first word that pops straight into your mind. Okay, family.
The best.
Inspiration.
More of it.
Futsal.
Froth.
Leadership.
Lack of it.
The Hammers.
The best team.
Oh, absolutely.
Love.
Appreciation.
Community.
Everything.
And finally, 2021.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
2 words, but we'll let you have that.
Yeah, all right, interesting.
Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on as our guest today.
Thank you very much.
And also thank you. Peter has given us his studio for the last 3 days, so we are so very, very appreciative that you've done that.
It's doing really well.
And yeah, it's definitely going more than
Thank
well.
you.
So we really appreciate it. Thank you for your
welcome.
time.
Great job, and honestly, Rita, George, amazing. I've been really enjoying it. I look forward to what Impactology's got for the future. Thank you very much.
No, and
Thank you.
And thank you for your support. And again, Peter's leadership. Peter and I, pre-COVID, we would catch up regularly and chat about life and work and family and all the things that are important. And I think, Peter's not in the game in the business of futsal. He's actually in the business of building communities. So whatever happens moving forward, it's not only about Peter, but it's also about the individuals that you live with, you work with, and you support. Just keep focusing on supporting your fellow human beings. So thank you so much, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you in 12 minutes. We've got Dr. Raman Achri from Singapore joining us. So take a breather, stretch your legs, do a couple of juggles of the ball, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Thank you.